Before the shocking moment, it's important to understand the world Marvin and Akbar lived in. Marvin wasn't just another player in the streets. He was smart, calculated, and always watching everyone around him. He had spent years slowly building his influence, making connections, and learning who to trust and who to watch. Marvin's world was a dangerous one, full of people pretending to be loyal while secretly plotting against him. Every decision he made had consequences, and he knew it. He wasn't reckless. He was careful, patient, and always planning 3 steps ahead. Akbar, on the other hand, was the kind of man who commanded respect and fear at the same time. People listened when he spoke, and many followed his rules without question. Akbar had a reputation for being tough, smart, and unpredictable. He didn't trust easily, and anyone trying to climb the ladder in his world had to be ready to prove themselves. The tension between Akbar and Marvin was more than just rivalry, it was a clash of 2 minds, each aware of the other's ambition, and both unwilling to step back. From the start, Marvin admired Akbar's strength, but he also feared it. And fear can be a dangerous motivator. Their paths crossed in ways that seemed small at first, but built into a bigger story. Marvin would notice little things: how Akbar treated his crew, how he handled deals, how he reacted when things went wrong. Every observation added up. Marvin began to understand the patterns of power that ruled their world, and he realized that Akbar, for all his strength, had weaknesses. He wasn't untouchable. No one was. Marvin's ambition wasn't just about survival. It was about claiming control and proving he could outsmart a man everyone else thought unbeatable. Meanwhile, Akbar was also aware of Marvin. He had seen the younger man's intelligence and ambition, and it made him cautious. Akbar respected people who were clever, but he hated threats. He watched Marvin closely, noting his moves, his alliances, and even his hesitations. Akbar's intuition was sharp, but Marvin's patience and cunning were sharper. It was a dangerous balance. Akbar had power and influence, but Marvin had strategy and the element of surprise. Over time, small incidents, disagreements, and power plays added fuel to a fire that neither of them could fully control in the streets. Loyalty was often a matter of convenience. Friends could become enemies in a heartbeat, and even the closest allies had hidden motives. Marvin understood this better than most. He had seen people he trusted betray others for money, status, or survival. He had learned to protect himself, to hide his true intentions, and to act only when the moment was right. This wasn't just about ambition, it was about survival. Every move he made had to consider not just what he wanted, but how it would affect him in the long run. A single misstep could cost him everything. Akbar's world, meanwhile, was built on fear and respect. He had followers, but he also had enemies. Not everyone who seemed loyal truly was. Some plotted behind his back, hoping to take a chance when the opportunity rose. Akbar had survived this world because he was cautious and decisive. He knew that one wrong decision could bring disaster, and he lived with that knowledge every day. His power came with the constant pressure of staying ahead, of predicting the moves of people like Marvin who could challenge him in ways others couldn't. The tension between Marvin and Akbar wasn't sudden. It had been growing quietly, almost imperceptibly, until the moment when ambition, fear, and survival instincts collided. Every conversation, every small conflict, and every decision they made added to a storm that was building, unseen by most, but impossible to ignore by those who understood the game. Marvin had a plan, but it required perfect timing and absolute secrecy. One wrong move, and it wouldn't just fail, it would end him. Yet, despite the risks, Marvin knew he had reached a point where he couldn't turn back. By the time the season reached this point, viewers could see the subtle signs of tension, even if they didn't fully understand the scale of what was coming. The way Marvin looked at Akbar, the way he analyzed every situation, the quiet moments of plotting behind closed doors, they all hinted at a confrontation. That would be more than just a clash of two men. It was a collision of minds, wills, and ambition. A moment that would change everything for both of them and everyone around them. The stage was set, and all that remained was the breaking point that would ignite one of the most shocking twists. In this season, the tension between Marvin and Akbar didn't appear overnight. It had been simmering beneath the surface for weeks, slowly building with every deal, every conversation, and every glance that carried unspoken meaning. Marvin's mind was always active, constantly calculating, watching how people reacted, where they slipped, and how their weaknesses could be used. He understood that in their world, power wasn't just taken, it was observed, waited for, and claimed at the exact right moment. Every small interaction between him and Akbar added to a larger picture, one that was invisible to everyone else, but crystal clear to Marvin Dada first. The conflict seemed minor, a disagreement over territory. Here, a slight insult there, moments that to outsiders might have looked trivial or accidental. But Marvin noticed the patterns. Akbar's temper, his subtle displays of dominance, the way he tested loyalty by watching reactions. These were all pieces of a puzzle. Marvin also noticed how others around Akbar were reacting, some nervous, some overconfident, some already plotting their own moves. It became clear to him that Akbar, while strong, relied heavily on appearances and the loyalty of others, and appearances could be manipulated. Marvin knew that if he acted carefully, the right move could shift the balance of power entirely in his favor. The tension escalated when small betrayals began to appear, almost as if the streets themselves were conspiring to push Marvin and Akbar toward a breaking point. Deals that should have gone smoothly fell apart. Trusted allies made mistakes or acted suspiciously, forcing Marvin to adapt quickly. Every failure or betrayal he observed in Akbar's crew became a lesson in how fragile Akbar's control really was. Marvin started to see cracks that no one else dared to notice. It wasn't enough for him to just survive. He had to turn these cracks into an opening. And as he watched, a dangerous thought took root. What if the only way to secure his position was to eliminate the obstacle entirely? Meanwhile, Akbar's awareness of Marvin's intelligence and ambition grew steadily. Akbar could sense the younger man was clever, always calculating, and increasingly unpredictable. He began to test Marvin, throwing subtle challenges, making demands, and even creating situations where loyalty and courage would be pushed to their limits. Each test brought out a side of Marvin that was sharp, cautious, and, at times, ruthless. Every interaction was a psychological game, a silent war, fought with words, actions, and glances rather than open conflict. The tension between them was like a tightly wound spring, and the energy it created was visible in every meeting, every negotiation, and every silent exchange in the streets. Everyone noticed the change. People started whispering, sensing that a shift in power was coming, but no one could predict the scale of it. Marvin moved quietly, making alliances, reinforcing loyalty with some while subtly testing others. He learned who could be trusted to follow him without question, and who might betray him at the first opportunity. His understanding of human behavior gave him an advantage that even Akbar struggled to counter. The more he studied Akbar, the more he realized that fear and intimidation alone couldn't maintain control. Akbar's authority depended on perception, and perception could be carefully dismantled. As the days passed, small confrontations grew sharper, and subtle threats became unavoidable. Marvin found himself cornered in moments, forced to make decisions under pressure that could either protect him or expose him. Each time, he analyzed every detail, weighing risks and predicting outcomes. He began to plan with surgical precision, imagining every possible scenario and rehearsing responses to them. At the same time, he had to maintain his public loyalty and composure, showing no sign of aggression while internally preparing for a decisive move. The danger was real, but Marvin thrived under pressure. The tighter the noose, the sharper his focus. The buildup reached its peak when a series of incidents finally pushed the tension to a boiling point. Words were exchanged that could not be taken back. Trust was broken, even in the smallest gestures. Every subtle threat, every hint of betrayal, and every observation Marvin had made combined to create a single, undeniable truth. If he didn't act, he could lose everything. The stakes were higher than ever, and the time for patience had passed. Marvin was now positioned to strike, with every variable calculated and every opportunity aligned. The stage was set for a confrontation that would leave no room for doubt, fear, or hesitation. In this world, power was a living thing, constantly shifting, testing everyone in its path. Marvin had recognized the moment when patience became danger and hesitation became weakness. He understood that the line between survival and annihilation was thin, and that sometimes the only way